Well, the challenge is that there's a major public health crisis here in Leicester. We've had twice as many cases in the last week in Leicester as the whole of London's had. So clearly for policing we need to work with partners, we need to work with local communities, and between us we need to get that infection rate of COVID down all across Leicester and Leicestershire in particular. I think we need to understand people receive messages in different ways. Clearly there's a load of different languages in the city. My kids would want to see some sort of video clip. I'd probably want to read it in the newspaper, So what we're trying to do with public health colleagues is make sure that the message is out there. I think the message is out there now. I think it's hard not to notice now in Leicester and Leicestershire that we have got a major public health problem. Well, we're thinking about all of our options, but we hope that common sense will prevail. Most people have complied here through the previous iterations of the lockdown. It's a pretty simple equation, really, isn't it? We live in an area where there's a very, very dangerous disease that makes people really ill. We currently, sadly, lead the nation in that illness. What people are being asked to do is stay at home. What people are being asked to do is only travel if it's absolutely essential. People need to decide about personal risk. You might really want a pint this Saturday. I'd really like a pint this Saturday. I won't be having one, and I won't be having one in a pub because I don't want to risk my health or the health of my mates or the health of my family. And I think one of the challenges here is there are clearly some people in the community who've probably got the illness but not really got any symptoms, and that's also a challenge. So I think that people being sensible, we will be out there, we will be advising people, we'll be explaining to people who feel they need to get out and about, but we are at a point, this is essential travel only. If you need to travel for work, do it. If you need to travel for medicine or food, do it. But otherwise, let's stay at home and watch Leicester City on the telly. I think you'd have to be pretty daft that you needed a pint so much that you breached the lockdown. This is a serious public health risk. Do you want to bring that illness into contact with your mates or your family? Certainly I wouldn't want to do that. We work really closely with all the neighbouring forces. We've been communicating with them so they can understand. And of course for us as a force, we've got two bits of legislation ongoing at the same time. So we will have the national move will take place in some of the force area, but not in the rest of it. So I'd really implore people, some of the leading health experts in the country are saying stay at home. That seems pretty shrewd advice to me. Non-essential businesses need to shut. If you can work from home, you need to work from home. There is a financial package being made available by the government. We haven't got all the details of that yet, but that financial package may well support them. And if I were them, in the short term, it's going to be better to shut for a couple of weeks and get rid of this risk than it is to stay open and potentially have half your workforce taken dreadfully ill. Wherever the line was drawn, there would be someone who was one side of the line and someone who was the other. If we made that the county line, the city boundary clearly didn't make any sense at all because of the way that housing has developed over the last century in particular. So wherever we drew the line, it was talked about quite a lot actually, and I have huge sympathy with people who find themselves, just one side of the road or the other, but you've got to draw the line somewhere. I'm sure people understand that those lines are drawn based on concerns about public health, and this is a public health problem. We need to work together to get rid of it, and the sooner we can get rid of it, the sooner we can get back to normal. Well, clearly, if there are gatherings of more than 6 people in the city, we will be asking people to split up and move on. If they don't, then we are likely to enforce. We're now in a public health crisis, so that's what we will need to do. Our experience is most people, when this is explained to them, they go home. They understand. But what we'd ask is let's not go out in the first place. It's been difficult. The weather's been gorgeous. There's been this sense that lockdown is being lifted. That's not now happening for us here. So people need to stay put, stay at home, stay safe, stay socially distanced, wash their hands, and stay at home. It's really important now. It's lives and livelihoods. Well, of course it's a concern, but also we can make sure that people go home. We have a power to tell gatherings to go home. We potentially are going to have to use that power, but I think the message is pretty clear. If a city of this size has got twice as many people with COVID being diagnosed as London, we have got a problem. We need to recognise that problem, and we need to work together as local communities to solve that problem so that we can then meet up with our friends, that we can go for a pint. That's just not this weekend.